Hello, everyone. My name is Ron Subia, and today we'd like to welcome you at home and here in the gallery at Woodland Park for a special edition of the Berkeley College Alumni Spotlight. Today, we are honored and privileged to bring Corrin Martin from the New York Football Giants. Corrin is a native of Belvedere and was accepted to Berkeley in 2012. Where she majored and earned a bachelor's degree in business administration in 2015. Corrin held multiple positions as supervisor and manager, and in 2019, HR coordinator and HR legal and marketing coordinator, where she has been very busy with the NFL draft, which happened last weekend. She also stays connected with us with the alumni relations. So at this moment, I'd like to give a big Berkeley night welcome to our #1 pick, Corrin Martin.
Good to be back.
All right, Corrin, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. How was, coming back on campus?
When do you do it again? I'm outside and I'm taking all my pictures while I'm on here, and I was like, wow, I really miss this place. I forgot how much I loved it here. Just reminiscing back and talking to, everyone I'm talking to the past couple weeks, getting this in the books, and it's been a crazy ride. So it's really nice to be back and see some familiar faces for sure.
Excellent, so welcome. So for our guest here and our guest via Zoom, we'd like to know a little bit more about your current role with the New York Football Giants.
It's a lot. It is a lot, but I would not trade it for anything. Being in the position, a lot of people think that, you're just working football, you're just here for the football season, but it actually is a whole lot more. So we typically, we have our draft, which leads into our training camp. From there leads into our season. So there's really no dull time. We're always usually rocking and rolling. But a lot of what I do has to do with just, getting everyone up and running prior to the season, making sure that everything is just in check. And just kind of being the right hand to as many people as I can and just getting involved and just trying to take things off of everyone's plate to make their load a little bit lighter. And just soaking up as much as I can and learning as much as I can. And I've been here for going on 6 years and I am still learning. I still love getting into new things, taking on new responsibility, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Would not trade it for the world.
Awesome. So we're going to hear a little bit more about the Giants and everything later, but right now we're going to take it way back. Okay. Let's take it way back to when you were a senior. And tell us a little bit about that, the process of choosing a school, choosing Berkeley. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So I will never forget when I chose Berkeley. Props to the whole admissions department because they probably called at least 10 times. And if it wasn't for them, I would have not joined. But we had a college fair at our high school and Berkeley was there. So that was nice to see. And being a senior, you really don't, it's like, oh my goodness, and you don't think about it until you're actually in there and have to make a decision. So I was going from table to table, and I actually got accepted to Centenary College. Didn't end up going. The reason why I didn't end up going is because I toured Berkeley. And I saw how the staff and students interacted with each other. And this is over at the Paramus campus. Everyone was super friendly, open door policy, everyone was going in and out, and everyone seemed so engaged in the classes. This class was, happening, which I love that I got to tour during, that's important. So I thought about it a little bit, and then, I got a couple follow-up calls, what are you thinking, this and that, and I was like, I need to be at Berkeley. It was a smaller school. So I did start, I started at the Paramus campus, worked my way over to the Dover campus, took a couple courses there, and then made my way over to this campus. And that was probably the best decision I ever made in my college experience. Not that the other campuses weren't great because they were, I would go back. But this campus, there was just something about this campus that I loved. Made great friends. A lot of my friends actually came over from the Browns campus and transferred over here. So that was good to have them all, all together here. And it was just easy. It was just an easy time. And that's the best way to explain it. The staff was always great, always welcoming. Everyone had their own friends, but it was never cliquey. Everyone was just together. And I think that's what helped me make my decision. Like I said, just coming in and touring the campus and seeing that interaction, and then just kind of growing from there, getting involved in what I could. Here we are, back on campus.
Can you tell us a little bit about like some of your favorite courses? Were you able to, make friends quickly? Tell us a little bit about maybe some of your favorite professors during that time.
So I had a few professors that I genuinely really liked. I think a lot of the reasons why I picked the classes that I did, going in, you don't know any professor, right? But once your first semester is over and it's time to choose classes for your next semester, I always tended to choose a lot of the the same professors that taught classes that I needed, because I just grew fondly of them. And I always heard good things of them. I know Professor Burrell was someone I will never forget. She was always a great professor. And there was always, I was never good at history or any of those courses, never good at the math courses, but the professors made it fun. So you didn't have to be great at it. And I was always nervous. Oh my goodness, what if my grade slips? What happens? All the what ifs and oh my goodness and all this that follows. But I was never nervous. It was always like, okay, we'll figure it out. And that was always good to be backed by the professors. And even, going in and, tutoring was always available, which that was always great. The libraries were always open. So I think that made it also another, good selling point as to why I just kept going. It was always just, it just felt like easy. I think that's still, again, I keep repeating myself, but it was just that.
Sounds like you had a great experience.
I did.
A lot of students come to us with like challenges, and they're like, why is this happening to me right now when I'm going through college? Were there any like external challenges or conflicts that you had, and how did you push through this?
Yeah, I think, just kind of backtracking to what I just said, I struggled a little bit with, my math and my history. And I was always so fearful again of just letting my grades slip. And I was like, oh my goodness, what's gonna happen next? I'm never gonna, get a good job, or I can't, I won't be able to ever get past this. And I definitely took advantage of the tutoring. I was definitely in the library after my courses. And I think that was the only thing that really made me, nervous during my whole time. And then of course, always being a freshman, you're like, oh my goodness, am I gonna make friends? Are there going to be activities that I feel comfortable joining in? So that was always, a little nerve-wracking for me, but I just jumped right in. I was never the person to just kind of jump in and go with it, but I did. And it was, that's I see a couple students here, I'm sure there's students online, but big piece of advice is you gotta just jump in. You gotta just do it. Make yourself feel so uncomfortable. And that was probably one of the biggest things that I did. I sat next to people I didn't know. And they probably didn't want me sitting next to them because they have their own friends at the lunch table, but I just sat right down. Or just joining clubs that you had nothing, no idea or no interest in. And even if you didn't like that club, you still made friends, so that was, that's a big piece of advice that I could definitely, give away.
Thank you for that. Something that we're always preaching to our students. As a matter of fact, today we had our career fair, and some of our students were shaking. And they were like, I really don't want to go in, right? 80 employers, some of those students are actually here. I'm not gonna make eye contact. But I really appreciate that piece of advice, because that's something that we're always telling our students, and James is always saying it too, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And start talking to people, start networking. And thank you for that. We appreciate that. Now let's fast forward, right? So everything's going really well and graduation is coming up. Tell us a little bit about what are you doing to prepare for that? What's going through your mind during this time?
I did a lot of pacing up and down the hallways in preparation for graduation. I know the one thing that made me so nervous was the capstone class, and it was like, I don't even remember how many pages we had to write. I'm just gonna throw a number, maybe 20 pages. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? If I don't do it, I'm not graduating. So that was my biggest hump that I had to get over. And sure enough, I had my professors that I, would lean on, and they would be there to help. I would, head right over to the library and check out as many books as I can and purchase so many note cards from the student store and just get to studying. And then finally got the notification, it's time to graduate. And I think at that point, it was just like, I did it. So that was, I just looked forward to the graduation ceremony. To anyone that's, a rising senior, definitely look forward to graduation. Graduation, you are going to be filled with a million different emotions, and they're all going to be good emotions. I can promise you that. You're going to look back and be like, why was I so nervous about not passing this test, or, anything? Why didn't I ask this question, or why did I get a C, or whatever it may have been? It doesn't matter, because you made it. You made it to that point, and that should be the biggest celebration that you have, and the only thing going through your mind.
And we're actually getting ready for commencement, which is happening at the Convention Center. So we're really excited about that this year. What was life like after graduation? Right after graduation, I know I felt like, now what? Right? I also remember not going to our graduation parties, and my parents were like, what's wrong? Right? And I just needed a time to reflect. Right? So I just wanted to know, what was life like for you right after graduation?
So right after graduation, so I worked while I was a full-time student, and I also had a full-time job. So I really never had much time to do any of the college life things that a lot of college students do, which was maybe for the best. But I remember I graduated. I'm like, oh, okay. So now what do I do? Do I continue to work where I was employed at Bed Bath & Beyond at the time, and I was like, okay, we're just gonna keep going and see what comes up. And then I remember it was 2 weeks after graduation, and I'm like, wow, I want to go back to school. I don't want to be an adult. I don't want to work. Like, what is this?
Adulting is tough.
Adulting is tough. It's not fun at all. But I wanted to go back to school. I was like, man, I want to go back to Berkeley, and I just want to do my classes all over again and hang out with my friends and go to the activities on campus. Like, I don't want to work. But reality set in, and you do have to work, right? So, I never take my experience at Berkeley for granted, for sure. I feel like it definitely molded me for all of my jobs that I've had. My biggest job being with the New York Giants. And I owe a lot of that to my college experience. I wouldn't know a lot of what I know now if it wasn't for your basic book work. And it sounds so funny, because a lot of people are like, oh, when am I ever going to use this history book again? Or, when am I ever going to, use these notes from your communications class? And oddly enough, I have one class that I will never forget, one of my marketing classes. And my professor was going over branding. And he was like, okay, well, you have this expensive watch, we'll just say. How are you going to sell that expensive watch? That all starts with you, how you communicate, how you can sell it. But then it doesn't stop there. You have to remember that it goes all the way through how you present it, the packaging, how you deliver it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I never even thought, you go and you get a nice watch or a nice pair of shoes and you're like, oh, okay, great, put them on and you're out the door. But you have to remember like everything that goes into it, the marketing aspect, that packaging, the presentation, who sold it to you, how'd you buy it? And I'll never forget that. And oddly enough, I still use that today when, we're doing gifting or something, and I always remember it's all about presentation. You always have to make sure anything that you do is presentable in every aspect. And that was one of the greatest memories that I have from that course. It's a very good course.
Excellent. So now moving forward, you have that work experience and how do you get to the Giants, right? We all want to know. Some of my coworkers actually today said, do you think she has a job for me? And I said, no,
You have to stay. I'm
But,
gonna be very mad if I took you away.
right. But tell us a little bit about how was it to acquire a position with the New York Giants, right? They're a popular team in town. It's something that seems so intangible, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
It was a wild ride. And when I get asked this question all the time, I answer it the same exact way. Beliefs aside, I always say it was by the grace of God. I, at the time, just recently lost my grandmother. So that was a tough time. She, raised me, she was my best friend. So that happened, and then, ended a relationship, moved out, got let go from my last position, and then the company closed down. So there was I was just like at a standstill, like, what am I going to do, right? And then I'm like, well, gotta make money. So I went on to every job board, put my resume together, freshened it up, every job board. I was just sending. And I saw the position for the New York Giants. And at the time, the position was for an HR legal assistant. And I was with Verizon. So I was heavily involved with the recruitment for the door-to-door business-to-business employees. So I didn't really have much knowledge when it came to like the legal aspect, but I knew the HR side. Saw it and was like, there was no way. I do not qualify for this. This was crazy that I would even apply. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, still no job, still freaking out, still sweating. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? Like, saw the job again, applied. I was applicant number 456. I will never forget that number. Got a call by the HR team, went in, interviewed with the team lawyer, and I probably stumbled every word that came out of my mouth. I was so nervous. It's like, there's no way that I can make up anything here. I'm interviewing with the team lawyer, he, of course, of all people, he'll be able to tell. I know. So, interviewed, and I remember I called my family and I was like, there's no way I got this position. And sure enough, 4 or 5 days later, he got a call and he's like, Corrin, are you still job searching? Yeah, I don't have a job, right? So what else are you gonna do? I said, yeah, I am. He's like, I don't want you to job search anymore. He's like, I want you to be a part of the team. Yeah. So, we went, got everything done, got paperwork done, got up and ready. And my first day I walked in and I was like, oh my gosh, this is something out of a book. Like you only read about this stuff, right? And that week I was just in shock. I had no idea. So the second week of work, my boss comes up to me, he's like, Corrin, you doing better? Did I do bad? Like what happened? And he's like, I can't lie to you. You look like a deer in the headlights. And I was like, well, I think I'm doing better. I'm doing good. Greatest boss, you know, he was really awesome. And yeah, that was in 2019, April 15th, 2019. I got hired by the team, and here I am today, still working for the team, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Awesome. And kudos to you for, you know, your resilience, right? And just staying motivated and saying, hey, let me reach for the stars, right?
You have to do it. If you're another big piece of advice that I never knew I would give out until, you know, I lived through it, but you just gotta shoot your shot. You know, even if you think that you don't qualify for the position or, you know, whatever it may be, if you're in the job search, just apply. What is the worst that's gonna happen? A no. Do you know how many no's you're gonna hear? How many no's have you heard?
Not that many.
No. I wish I was you. You will hear a million no's, but it just takes that one yes to change everything. And I always said, you know, I went on a lot of interviews, and obviously I didn't get, you know, the prior roles, but looking back, I'm so glad that I went on those interviews, and I'm so glad that I got a no, because that was great interview practice for me. It made me, you know, shake out of my shell and talk to anyone and answer those difficult questions, and, you know, go over all of my experiences with work and college and all those tough questions. And, you know, when I made it to the Giants, I'm like, oh, this was a breeze. Like, they were tough questions, don't get me wrong, but it worked. And I would definitely, another good piece of advice, just send out that resume, apply to that job, take that course that you don't think that you're not gonna, you know, that you're not gonna be able to pass. Just, you're gonna get a million more no's. I can promise you that.
Well, I can tell you this, if you decide to leave the Giants, you have a spot with career services. Because that's something that we're constantly telling our students, and they get sick of it. Serious. Well, yes, you know, you got really comfortable with interviewing. You were battle tested.
Yes.
And by the time you got to this dream job, it wasn't a big deal, right?
I took a class, you know, towards the end of graduation, and we had to practice interview. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, why are we doing this? What is the importance of this? And I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was great. And I remember I went to career services and they helped me with my resume. So again, if you're looking for a job, go to career services, bring your resume. Even if you don't have a resume, bring a blank piece of paper and a pen, and they'll help you with it. I can promise you that, because I had maybe 2 sentences on mine, and that was my first name, my last name, and my address. So you have to go, use your resources, right? That's another good piece of advice. Use those resources. You're paying for it. They're here for us. Go.
I appreciate that, because they must be sick of seeing me around. Did you do your resume yet? Did you apply yet?
I thought that you guys were sick of me. When I would be in the office all the time, like, oh, you know, are you sure this is a good course? Is this a good one for me? Does my resume look okay? Got to.
Excellent. So I met you at an alumni event. So I want you to tell our students and some of our grads, you know, what do you do to stay involved, and what are some of those events like?
Yeah, so I was just at an alumni event, and it was fantastic. You were really able to kind of see everyone, you know, a few that you graduated with. There was professors there that joined in on the event, and it was a really great networking event, just to see where everyone is now, where they came from, you know, I met, you know, a lady, she's currently, you know, in her 50s and back in school, and she's already had a full career. So that was really great to see. You know, I've done a couple of the charity events. One of my good friends, Edison Jacquez, alumni here too. He does a lot with his volunteering and his charity work, and I partner up with him pretty often. and help out there. So definitely get involved as much as you can, even if it's for one event, you know, just show up and see what's there. You never know, you might just keep coming back. Look at me.
How do you find out about this?
Social media, of course, everyone has social media. The newsletters are great. LinkedIn is my best friend. I mean, I'm constantly seeing, you know, everything you're posting, and which is great. I love it. Everything you're posting, which is always
Shout
good.
out to Michael Ayers.
Yes.
I also want to say hello to Edison Jack as Berkeley alumni superstar out there. We see everything that you're doing, so shout out to Edison as well. All right, so now we want to for you to take us to these Giants, New York Football Giants facility. What is your day-to-day like? Do you see, you know, some of these superstars?
Yeah, so I wish every day was the same, but it's not. Every day I walk into work and there's always a new project to help out on. In my role, it's an integrated role. I'm helping out a lot of different departments, taking on a lot of responsibility, dealing with our, you know, partners, our sponsors, even our business staff. Just, you know, with their day-to-day, you know, responsibilities, getting everything up and ready for the season. For the season, we have, you know, rewind, we have training camp. Before that, we have draft, which we just got through. So there's a lot of big events that lead up to the season. So there's really, I mean, there's downtime, don't get me wrong, but you know, people say, oh, don't you have off? Like football's only, you know, a couple months out of the year. Oh no, we are always grinding. We are always working hard. You know, and our goal is to make it all the way to the top to win that Super Bowl. So this year will be our year.
Awesome, awesome. So just like a lot of these big networks always do, we have breaking news. Okay, breaking news. Corrin is going to share something really special with us right now. Go ahead.
So as of last week, I was actually promoted. We have a new role that I took on. So I'm the coordinator of corporate partnerships for their operations and events. Wow. I absolutely love my position. I've been in it for just over a week now. And that position handles a lot. That's a really big facing, forward facing position with our sponsors, with our activation team, with our marketing team. So just being their right hand. A lot of the operations I've been taking on, and just being a sponge. It's something totally new for me because I worked in the legal and marketing department, but still working with, you know, all the familiar faces. So that's always good. But just taking on what life throws, and this was put in my lap, and I'm just running with it. So I'm really grateful for it.
Congratulations. All right, so what is, you know, piece of advice that you would give? You know, what are some of if you can leave us with some words for some of the students here and on the Zoom?
That's a heavy loaded question. Put it on the spot now.
Hey, you work for the New York Football Giants.
I know. I shouldn't have a problem speaking to a million people. Best piece of advice. Oh, I feel like I could give a million pieces of advice, but I think the most important one, and I touched on it lightly before, is, you know, it's natural to go in and be nervous and not know what you're doing and not knowing where you want to be. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I was in college. I was a business major. I was like, well, we'll just see where this goes. And I think that it really helped me decide where I wanted to be with my career by taking every class that I possibly could, you know, every different aspect, all the electives, take advantage of those. And then you'll really be able to narrow in what you like and what you don't like. And it's good to see what you don't like, right? That's how you're gonna figure out where you kind of wanna go. So definitely just kind of throw yourself in and just don't be shy. I know that's easier said than done. I was always a shy student, if you can believe that. I was always in the back corner. I never picked the front row. I was always in the far left corner, closest to the door, first one out. And now, you know, I can talk to millions of people, but just to, make yourself feel uncomfortable to the point where you can walk in anywhere and be comfortable. Right? So it doesn't matter who's around you, what you're doing, what job you're applying for, nothing is too big for you, and just accept rejection. Rejection is good. It is very, very good. I always thought that it was a bad thing to be rejected from anything, right? But most importantly, a job position. It's like, oh, they don't want me, I just gotta know. You keep going. You keep moving on, because you're gonna learn so much from that no. And you're still gonna get into that one yes, and that's all you need, and then it's just gonna be open doors.
Excellent, thank you so much for that.
Sure.
I want to open up now for questions.
Yeah, of
Okay, I
course.
know we have some questions in the audience, so we'll do that, and then we also have questions from Zoom. Okay, so let's,
Can I start the first question?
yes,
Yes,
sir,
yeah.
yes, sir.
I'm sorry, so this is, I know you already gave some of the students advice, but if you can go back in time when you were a freshman at Berkeley College,
Yes.
what advice would you give yourself that experience you have now? What would you give yourself if you go back to being a freshman at Berkeley College?
Oh gosh, I would love to be a freshman at Berkeley College again. I would do it so different. I really would. Like I said, I was a shy student. I didn't ask questions. I did what I was told, and I was in and out. If I could go back and redo my freshman year, I would get involved in so much more on campus. I would definitely take my freshman year more seriously. I was a little lax, I'm not gonna lie, my freshman year. But I would definitely get more involved. And if I could do it again, that's probably the one thing that I would do over.
You hear that, students, get involved.
Get involved, that's for sure. Use every service that's here at Berkeley College. You are paying for it. In some way, you are paying for it. The library is great. I mean, I don't know how many people use the library nowadays, but I remember back in the day, we were all in the library. That's where we would do all of our studying there, and then we would all go and have lunch in the cafeteria together, and then we would go to our classes and, do something after, on campus. So that you definitely have to, and career services was great. They were incredible. Definitely helped me a lot, with my courses, and no question is a dumb question. I feel like every question is a knowledgeable question where you can learn from. So definitely don't be afraid to ask questions.
What transferable skills did you actually acquire at Berkeley that help you today in your role?
Definitely my public speaking. We were pushed a lot in our public speaking classes to get up in front of all of the students. And all of the students, I think, one of the reasons why I love Berkeley is because the classes were very small and intimate and everyone knew each other. And I'm sure they've grown immensely now, but I remember my one class, I might have had 15, 20 kids in there. And they're like, okay, you need to get up and you need to, give a speech on something. And I froze. I did not know what to say. I probably stumbled every word. But I think that fast forward now, that truly helped me because I was pushed. I was so uncomfortable in that situation. I didn't want to talk in front of everyone, even though they were all my friends, right? So definitely the communications and the public speaking really, I was really molded from here. And I think, honestly, having deadlines I was always very responsible and I always, did work on time. But I think that having deadlines were incredible. And I think that helped me, with what I do now, because everything is deadline based. Everything has to be done on time and, in someone else's hands, right? So that, I could definitely say that was a skill that I took from Berkeley as well.
My question is, you said that you felt maybe you weren't really qualified for the position at the time that you interviewed for. Did your first boss there who interviewed you, did he tell you what made the difference? Why he chose you?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I went in for that interview, of course, I, saw all the players and all the coaches and, the business staff, and everyone's right in front of you. And my thing is, I don't treat anyone different, right? You are who you are, everyone's a person, everyone has a job, and that's it. And I remember, my boss at the time who interviewed and hired me, he goes, you weren't involved in the pixie dust. And I said, I didn't say this in front of him, so I was like, oh, I know, I understand. And I went home and, I called my grandfather, I was, how, what does this mean? He goes, oh, it essentially means like you're not really like a fangirl, you're not like, oh my gosh, I saw this person, or I saw that person, or, not involved with all the glitz and the glam. I was just there to do my job. And that was it. That, I felt like that, he said out of all the applicants, that was something that really did set me apart, and I don't think I've changed in that aspect. I see my team as my team. I see a lot of the people that I work with as, who started off as just, my coworker next to me as, my best friends and, my family. I'm with my team more than I am with my family. I'm sure that goes for everyone, right? We're in the same place for 40 hours. But I think that was the biggest thing that set me apart, and to this day, I just go in and get my work done, and here we are.
I have two questions for you. I work in high school admissions, so I have to ask you what high school you graduated from.
Belvedere High School,
Bellevue High School.
Warren County. Yeah.
Second question, you talked about all your takeaways that have led you to where you're at today, and we talked about shooting for the stars. What's ahead? What's your ultimate goal, dream job, whatever you like to call it?
Yeah, I've done a lot of thinking about that, lately, and ironically enough, this position, came up and I was put right into it. But being in the sports industry, I don't see that I'll be anywhere else. I don't want to be anywhere else. I want to be in the industry. Love my team to death. I do. Selfishly, I want to stay with my team until the end of time, right? Who knows? That could happen, that may not happen. I don't know. What I do know is that I will be in the sports industry. I love it. I love everything about it. I love, the people, the players, the coaches. It's a big family. I mean, and that goes for anyone that is, in the working field. You create such great relationships with your colleagues. But there's just something about the sports industry that just, I don't know, has a special spot for me.
Hi, everybody. Congratulations.
Thank you. I love your suit.
Thank you.
Standing out.
I'm trying.
Good.
Good to see you as well. I'm happy to be here as well. I'm a student at Berkeley College in final year. IT
Congrats.
major.
Okay, you're almost there.
Almost there.
Good.
Yeah, I'm here to get to the door.
That's it.
Then come back in the door.
And you'll be here. You'll be in my chair.
Thank you. I have two questions. I really have more than that, but I don't know about anyone the opportunity of also asking the questions. Now, I was taught that growing up into now, we must write our visions and make it plain. And on the topic of vision, when you look back, you said you'll be here 6 years. When you look back on the vision that you would have put together, would you see yourself being there where you are, or in any aspect of that arena in terms of you will see yourself in sport? Because most time, when we look back at our vision board, even if we don't write one thing, we have several things, we can say, okay, we didn't land on this one, this one. Do you ever visualize yourself going to be in sports?
Ready for this? Never in my life. I thought that I would be a teacher, and then I thought I would be a chef. I can barely cook. I'm Italian. I can cook a good sauce, and I can cook a good meatball, and I know how to make homemade pasta. That's it. So I don't know where my mind was when I thought that I was going to be this world-renowned chef. I guess I was really shooting for the stars, but to your point, that was never, that was my vision at the time. Never did I think that I would be in the sports industry. We were chatting earlier, and I was never a sports fan. Never followed, sports. My family's not really big into sports. And I remember my first year, my first season, My first game, I was on the field. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not too sure I know anything about this sport right now, right? And I couldn't lie, I was being completely honest. But I wasn't there to play football, right? I was there to work. I was there to, do what I was good at, and that was HR work and legal work. And sure enough, I was on the field, and that first game, I think that I was looking in every direction. I don't think that I looked at one thing for even a second. I was just like, so crazy. So just taking everything in, and I learned the sport of football real fast. But again, that goes back to putting yourself in an uncomfortable environment, and it just changes everything. I knew nothing about football, right? And that game, I was like, wow, I need to pay attention because this is my life now. And I mean, I'm not a professional at, the game, but I can tell you a couple things. But this is, from here on out, this is, my vision. My vision is to always be in the sports industry.
Wow, thank you. Second question because of time. Now, based on what you just said, I believe it's safe to say sometimes you can end up where you envision yourself.
Oh, yeah. And
So,
more ways than any.
Correct. My final question would be on purpose. Where you are right now you said you were just promoted, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like in this current role that you acquired, how will you feel like you committing yourself to do this whole sports career? Do you feel like you're really fulfilling a purpose as we put here to do? Because sometimes you can find ourselves in a great place, but then sometimes we feel like we're not fulfilling our purpose. Do you feel like you are at the place in your life where you are fulfilling that purpose that you were sent here to do? Or you feel like 10 years from now, you probably wouldn't be somewhere else?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I was actually just thinking about that the other day. I felt like in my, last position that I kind of hit, the top of the ceiling there. I was like, okay, what else can I do? I need more. I always like to be challenged. I always like to be busy, right? And I didn't really know what I was gonna do. And then sure enough, this position, came right to me. And I was happy to take on the position. And I feel like the position that I'm in now is where I was supposed to be. But I don't, I am so grateful for the positions that I've had with the team, prior to this current role, because it's helped me so much. It's, taught me so many skills that I've been able to just carry on to this role. And, I'm very happy with where I'm at right now. So I feel like it was definitely meant to be. Go ahead.
Just curious, because we have a lot of students that come in that say they want to do sports marketing specific.
Yeah.
And you did not come from sports marketing, you just had marketing. Can you explain how having a more general, not such a specific major was beneficial, or you felt maybe now looking back, sorry, it was just something very, very specific.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you brought that question up, because I was actually talking, to one of my most recent bosses, and, just talking about schooling and, how I, chose Berkeley and what major I wanted to major in, and, all of that, all those details. And I think that I did it right. I think that picking the business degree was great, because I wasn't locked into just one field. Now there are many students that know exactly, I want to be a doctor. Fantastic. I want to be a chef. I want to be a teacher. Outstanding. If you don't know exactly what you want to do, which that was me. I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? I had all of these different dreams in my head of what I wanted to be, but I don't think that I really realized what I wanted to do until most recently. So the best piece of advice, that I can give with picking out your majors is, if you don't know, just pick a general business major, because you're going to get every course. You're going to get marketing, you're going to get communications, you're going to get PR, you're going to get, community involvement. There's so much that's all tied up into that business degree, right? And from there, that's how you can pick. And that's what I did. It was from that one marketing course. I'm like, what, this is actually really fun. And that's how I kind of found an interest in the marketing side. So that's definitely, definitely a must. If you don't know, just take a general business, and it's okay if it's just general business. I mean, it got me great places, right? But you'll definitely be able to kind of see where you land from there. Let's.
Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you. I do have a question for you regarding your new role. How did you fall into it and why is it great for you? Because I think we may have something similar in common, and I'd love to hear your story.
Yeah, so my boss that I most recently had, he actually transferred to another team. And I was primarily his assistant. I did a lot of work underneath him, which touched into our marketing and our media and communications department. So I had to hand him a little bit. But he had left and I was kind of like, okay, now what? Where am I gonna go? Kind of thing. And this position, was molded kind of for what I do. It's a lot of what I've done, but it's kind of more deeper into what I really wanted to get into, which was great. Again, it's all about timing, and I think that this happened at the most perfect time. And that's how I landed this role. It's an integrated role. It's still very new, so I'm still even learning the position. This is my second week in the role. 6 days. Yep. So, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm really helping out our sponsorship and our activation team. A lot of the back end operations. So, helping out with their events. Touching base with clients, just making sure that, they're satisfied, helping out with anything that we can do. How we can really, get their brand out there and how we can create partnerships with them and how, what do we need from them? What do they need from us? And just kind of, coming to a common ground. So that's a big part of my day. And then of course, it just never stops. You could be, given a project, where you have to, order 500 pieces of apparel, for a sponsor, you have to put together gift bags. It's just an ever-changing role. But I love it. I haven't stopped. I feel like this, past week, I'm just like, oh my goodness, I'm constantly going, and I just stopped for lunch. But I wouldn't change it. I'm just being a sponge right now, just soaking it all in. Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize.
I always say pies don't hear you, you like to talk, and if I don't talk, you wanna talk to me?
Exactly. You were meant to talk.
Now that you're here in this position, that God bless you, and I believe that whenever God put us in a position, recognition of power, so that we can make the way for others who may be coming after us. And my question is, now that you're here, do you think that with the knowledge you're going to be acquiring at that level of school promotion, that we can put together a clear path through you for our Berkeley students who one day want to step into working with the giants, and then we can put together a step-by-step recommended, instructions or guideline that you're there that you can make way for students who are here and say, hey, I want to be there someday, or I want to be just where you are someday, and then relate that over to our campus, and then we can also develop that sort of our student to say, hey, somebody went ahead of us, this is the recommendation, this is the steps, pay the way. So if you guys want to go into the giants, you can do A, B, C. Do you think you can get something like that in the near future as you develop yourself and gain more experience in that way?
Yeah, I think we've talked lightly about that. I think that that's super important to bring back, alumni. And, we were brainstorming about how, we can get more involved. And I think that it's so important for alumni to get involved and get back into those classes with the students and really show, I was in your chair, literally, I was in your chair, almost 10 years ago. Thank you for reminding me of that over Zoom the other day. But yeah, I am so for that. I think that that's so important. And it doesn't even have to be with me in my role, or it could be with me and how I made my way to where I am. But I think that that's so important. So my Berkeley staff, we need to integrate that. I think that that's really important to bring in those alumni and just show off where we started and where we are now and how, you know, if you want to get into sports, how do you get there? You're never gonna know unless you're in front of someone that's in there, right? And that's so important. And I never, you know, when I was in school, I didn't know that I was gonna be in the sports industry. But going back, that would be something that I would want as a student. I would want someone that would, you know, sit in front of me and be like, okay, this is what I do. This is, you know, what I've done to get there, and how are we gonna get there together? Right? Let's make what you want happen. And I think that that is so important. Absolutely.
Office atmosphere.
The office atmosphere, does it differ? How does it differ with a win and a loss? Like Monday morning, they lose a tough one to, I won't even say the name, but they lose a tough one. My vocabulary would change very quickly. Does it, obviously it does, but how, do you feel it in the buildings when they lose?
Yeah, of course you do. I mean, I'd be
Is
lying
everyone
to
depressed at
say.
lunch?
I mean, when you go through any loss, right? Say you're playing for, you know, your high school soccer team or your college basketball team, or, you know, you're at a teaching conference and there's some type of, you know, competition, any competition that you lose at. Rightfully so, you're not gonna feel good about it, right? You know, who did I let down? You know, what could I have done better? But you really can't, you just harp on that. You can't, because you just gotta keep moving. You're gonna learn from that, right? You're gonna learn from a loss. You're gonna learn from a failed test grade, a failed class, a rejection from a job, getting fired. You're gonna learn from it, but the important thing is to remember that you can't just fixate yourself on it. You just gotta keep moving. Because in, you know, 6 days you have another game, you know, you can't cry about it for 5 days and then on day 6 you're back on the field, right? Because now you're not there.
We have one question from online. Okay, from another alumni. Knowing what you know now, what will you tell yourself when you were in your last semester as a Berkeley student?
Good question. Ooh. What would I tell myself? Stumped. All right, so what would I tell myself? I think that I would not take my foot off the gas on my last semester. I think that a lot of students, and I'll speak for myself, knowing that I had, you know, I don't know what the scheduling is now, but knowing that I only had 6 weeks left, and then it got down to 3 weeks, and then I was on my last week right before graduation. I feel like you start to get a little lax, right? You're like, oh, I made it, I'm good, but you didn't yet, right? You still have until that day to walk, and that all counts. So I would definitely say the biggest piece of advice would be, you know, from that question is definitely just keep pushing. Push until you are on that stage with that diploma in your hand. And you can't stop after that. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, like me, I was like, all right, this is great. This is paradise. You know, no more school, no more waking up. I thought it was crazy to wake up at like 7:30 and have class at 8:45. And now I have to get up at 5 in the morning. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would rather be at school for 3 hours and have lunch and be with my friends. But, you know, I wouldn't change it for anything.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm pumped right now, right? Is everybody pumped out there? All right, all right. Just want to say thank you so much. Wow.
Hope that, you know, we continue with our relationship, you know, myself and the college. You've been great. Love working with you. And like I said to my friend in the back, that was a great idea. And I truly hope that, you know, that's something that we could really get on the books. And it's important. I feel like as alumni, we're here to help. You know, we're here to share what we've been through, how we made it through, where we got to today, right? That's important. That's a job of an alumni, I think, and I think that should be really capitalized on.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I also like to thank SDCL and Alumni Relations, the crew at Career Services. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for attending the Berkeley Alumni Spotlight, and we will be bringing a lot more events to you. Thank you. Will you join us for some pictures?
Oh, cool.
We also have a gift for you.
Oh, that's
Thank you very much.